You already know what's behind the narcissist's mask, but you have overlooked it, forgotten about it, or explained it away because there is something preventing you from seeing the truth. In this video, I will walk you through, firstly, the blinders that have been placed over your eyes. And then I will remind you of all the instances when you did see behind the mask. And let's put that picture together. I'm Emma, a medical doctor and abuse survivor. Let's get into it. The relationship started with you getting a VIP ticket to the first row seat for the widescreen performance of the mask. They were charming, romantic, attentive. They did and said amazing things, and you felt wonderful. That was the mask. That is the mask that you still see them put on when they enter a new room or interact with people they want to impress. They use this charm, and often they have many different masks that they put on. Sometimes it is the charming, witty, well-read or person who have traveled or know a lot. Sometimes they put on a humble appearance. I bet you've also seen them do that charming personality. They take it forth, even though you just had an argument or they have been cold with you for days. When there are some people there, they act like nothing is wrong and they treat you very kindly, and the argument is forgotten for a while. But then after you get home or after the guest leaves, it's like they shut down this act, the charm, and they turn inward. So after you know them for a while, that charming act very seldom comes out. They might use a more neutral approach with you that doesn't take that much effort from their part. So is that the real them? The person who is a bit more low-key or uninterested, withdrawn or grumpy? I would say no. I think that that's still a show. They still have an interest in you staying in the relationship. They only keep that low maintenance behavior as long as you are complying, as long as you are invested in the relationship, as long as they have use for you. But gradually, as the relationship progresses, you start to see more and more bad behavior. But there are several things that makes you excuse or explain this away or overlook it. First of all, it's your paradigm, how you view the world, your goals and wishes when you interact with the world. You are seeking for connection. You want to make people happy. You want to have a positive effect in the world. And we have this bias. So we assume that people view things and think about things the same way that we do. So when they do something mean, or when we catch them in a lie, or they say a word that really hurt us, we try to look at it. So if I was in this person's shoes and I did this thing, then I must have been really, really hurt and off balance. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. And then we assume that the other person felt just as bad as we would have done in a situation where we could have even imagined behaving like that. So we view their behavior as if it was ourselves doing that, and then we can excuse it. Well, they really do love us. They really have this longing for connection, and they want to have a positive impact. But obviously they are very hurt. So that's why this bad behavior showed up. This also fits with the theory about narcissism being a trauma response, having grown up in childhood where they experienced a lot of trauma or hurt. That made them develop this personality disorder. From what I've seen, the people who most often become narcissists in a narcissistic family dynamic is the golden child, who is actually treated much better than the scapegoat children. So that means that the trauma induced in the scapegoat children is much greater than the trauma in the golden child. So that speaks against this trauma hypothesis. Trauma can't explain fully why they behave like this. I have another video talking about my views on this subject if you want to watch it. Then there is the manipulation, gaslighting, shifting the blame towards you, and the gradual increase in bad behavior that goes on in the relationship that makes you gradually get accustomed to their bad behavior. As the relationship progresses and you're moving through the abusive cycle, so it goes up and down, good behavior, cold behavior, bad behavior in cycles, and the bad behavior gradually increases, it makes your level of normality or acceptance gradually shift. So you start to accept things that you wouldn't have accepted first. You get accustomed to being treated in a certain way and overlook it, and well, they will snap out of it. You get used to, in your mind, explain their bad behavior away and take hold of their good behavior as evidence that they are really in love with you. They really want the best for you. And then there is also the compassion, the love you have for them, the desire that makes you want to believe that good side of them. The person, the behavior that you fell in love with in the beginning, that you still see appearing in glimpses. Then there is the inability to trust our own eyes, our own experiences, our own judgments. Our society almost views science as, that's our belief system and our religion, like science can explain everything. Professionals have all the answers. And if someone has a diagnosis, then that's the answer. It's like we can't trust what we are seeing ourselves in our everyday life. we can't fully trust what we are experiencing, so we're constantly checking the news, social media, the latest research, what the professionals are saying, and then we put our trust in them. They are there to interpret the world for us and tell us what is happening and what we can believe. But have you noticed how the professionals often have different opinions? When they get a bit lost in theory, they also get disconnected from reality. I watched, I think it was on Netflix, it's a series called The Puppet Master, and it's about a highly manipulative man who was operating in the UK, and he was tricking youngsters into believing that he was working for the secret police, tricking them to give him money and so on. I think you should watch it if you're interested in understanding manipulative people. It will enlighten you. But in that series, there was this father, because the puppet master had with him 3 youngsters. One of them was the daughter of the father. And they were going for a road trip. And the story was that one of the men had a fatal illness. He was diagnosed with cancer, and they were going for a road trip together, as his final wish. But the father, who was a farmer, he didn't buy it. And he said that, I know when an animal is sick, it doesn't behave as the rest of the herd. You can see the signs are there that this animal is sick. But when I looked at the man who claimed to have cancer, I couldn't see any signs of illness in him, so I didn't believe that story. So this man was in touch with the old, the common sense. In Sweden we call it common farmer's sense. So it has nothing to do with education, but it has to do with the ability to trust what you're seeing, to draw conclusions from your experience. So that's you have in yourself a lot of wisdom if you learn to trust that. But I think we have been disconnected from that in the modern days. Because science is making a lot of progress, especially in the technical area, in the area of medicine and pharmacology. So then that's a very good thing. But as a side product of that, we think that science has the answer for everything, when in fact it doesn't, and especially when it comes to human behavior. How do you study the reasons why humans behave a certain way? If you interview them, if you ask someone why they behaved a certain way, how can you know that they are telling you the truth, for example? So when it comes to narcissistic behavior and personality disorders, yes, we can do some observations. We can do some interviews. But how do you really know what is going on in the person's mind? I think that here, science does not have all the answers. And when it comes to people who are manipulating us, using us, abusing us, we need to take a look at how they behave, and we need to trust what we're seeing. Of course, the narcissist is actively trying to make you distrust this common sense with the gaslighting. They often say things like, don't you trust me? Or you need to trust me. So they want you to put your trust in them and ignore anything that you might see or feel, and brush that off and just keep trusting them against evidences that might show up. Another thing that prevents you from seeing the truth is the trauma bond. I go deeper into this in other videos, but a trauma bond is a chemical bond in the brain that is created when they are shifting between the push and pull, the hot and cold, and going through the abusive cycle. Your brain becomes addicted to the periods when you are close, and that gives you a feeling of almost like a high when things are good between you. It's almost like you forget the rest of the world, like it doesn't matter anything that happened, or even the truth doesn't matter. All that matters is that now they're close to you. And it's actually the same feeling that you get when you are addicted to a drug, when you finally get your hands on it and nothing else matters. So that's actually like a dangerous aspect of the trauma bond. And how this is possible, I will link a video in the end talking about what a trauma bond is and how to start to loosen it and eventually break it. So that can be the next step after watching this. But that addiction, the trauma bond, all those the hormones, prevents you from seeing the truth. Now, what is the truth? As I said in the beginning, you have seen behind the mask. Perhaps the first time you saw behind the mask was a little bit into the relationship, after the first intense love bomb. Perhaps they had an anger outburst. And they said something really mean. So the narcissists that I have known, all of them have occasionally said some really, really horrible things. And not just when they were angry, like in the moment, but if you don't apologize or get back in line, they can keep saying those horrible things for days. Like, anger doesn't last that long. So, like, if you just get upset and you blow your top off and you say something you don't mean, that's in the moment. But now I'm talking about like sending very mean texts to you, or working themselves up and saying horribly nasty things to you. It can be threats. It can be wishes for something bad to happen to you, or it can be a wish for destruction. My ex-husband, for example, in the end, he turned really dark, but he started to talk about how he wished that Sweden would be drawn into a war, because then we would get what we deserved. So the wish for destruction, the wish for, if things doesn't work out for me, then I hope that all of you are destroyed. And I've also seen these people, after they really crush a person, they really treat their ex badly, take all that they can, and try to destroy them in any way possible. And then afterwards, they may speak about things that this person said in the end when they beg them not to do something, and they will laugh about it or talk about it with glee. how they treated this person, and obviously this was a high moment for them. So they enjoyed seeing a person who loved them, who had done a lot for them. They enjoyed seeing them crushed and getting a sense of high for being the person who caused that. So is that the person behind the mask? The person who is hateful? The person who is enjoying the feeling of being superior after having crushed and humiliated someone? The person who wishes destruction upon anyone who is in their way or doesn't help them, or on the whole society if things go bad for them? Is that the person behind the mask? I'm not sure if that is the real person, but I think that is at least closer to the real them than the nice, fake, humble, charming person that shows up when they try to impress or when you are useful to them. Why do I say that? Because the charming person, the charming behavior, that disappears the way that disappears the moment that you're not complying. If that was the real them, why would that disappear if you irritated them so quickly? They are doing this to get a reaction, and they are not putting on this charming show if they don't need to. So that is obviously fake. Now the anger, when that shows up, sometimes I think that they are actually ramping up the anger on purpose, also to get the reaction, perhaps to scare you into line. So that can also be a performance. But how about the comments, the anger, the glee that leaks out when that is actually tells it doesn't work in their favor? They don't, when they share these superior moments, like their wins, they don't get anything out from that. So that behavior, I think, is not a mask. That is coming from the true them. Now, is that the only part of the true self? I'm not sure, and I think it has to do also with how much malignancy they have in them. Narcissism is on a scale, and how much of it they have and how much goodness they still have there in them. I think it is individual, but I also seen that as the years progresses, usually the generosity, the kindness, it starts to wear thin when they get a bit older. They don't feel that they have the surplus to share with anyone. They get more evil. And when they did those good deeds when they were younger, perhaps that was also part of the show, part of showing themselves as a good person. But as they get older and they're no longer able to get as much help, trick people as easily as they could when they were younger, they feel that they can't afford it. They want to keep all the crumbs for themselves. So what I've seen is usually that the nasty behavior increases and they're no longer able to keep all of that venom in, because that is what is gathering up inside. And there's a lot of hate and anxiety, anger, a lot of negative feelings underneath that appearance, like the act that they are putting on. Underneath is a lot of dark emotions. Many of them have trouble to sleep. They may fall asleep with the TV on, or put on a series on their phone and keep it on all night and just slumber partially. If you still think that they did have love for you, if you still don't want to let go of that nice, kind person that you saw sometimes, let me ask you this. Would a person who loves you let you be uncomfortable in your own home? Would they manipulate you to make you serve them more, to make you accept more bad behavior? And would they try to make you believe that you were to blame for it? Let's use some common farmer's sense and apply this to the situation. This person was not a kind, loving person who wants the best for the people around them and who wants to contribute to society. This person was a manipulator. They were a liar. They were an abuser. They were pitting people against each other to make them work harder for this person, or to make them distrust each other, so that they could separate their targets, so that they can separate you from your support system. And when the relationship was over, they talked badly about you so that everyone would believe that you were the fault, that you were the reason for things breaking down, that you were not behaving properly. They wished ill upon anyone who didn't do what they wanted. They hold grudges against other people. The leaks that you saw, the hate, the anger, the bitterness, the ill wishes, those were real parts of them. Much of their behavior is an act. We can't know exactly what is going on inside of them, but it is not peaceful and it is not joyful. It's anxiety and bitter talk, bitter thoughts. That we can know for sure. If you're still trauma bonded to this person, if you're still feeling drawn to a person who hurt you, and you can't explain that feeling, I would advise you to take a look at this video. It shows how I was able to break the trauma bond in 5 steps, and also explains what a trauma bond is, so that you can understand what it is and the process that will help you to get free from that grip. I'm Emma, holding up a light over the bridge. See you in the next video.